So I recently tweeted out a question, and the question was, name a sneaker that you want to buy but you never will because of the price. In fact, leave a comment in the comment section to continue this thread because I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. But I had over like 300 replies back from people on different sneakers that they wanted to purchase, and so I narrowed down the results to two different formats. One is the overall best sneaker that everybody wanted to choose. There's like the top 10 basically of that, and then also by sneaker model. So there is a ton of different Nike Dunks and Air Jordan 1s and stuff, and so I wanted to break it down by model of which ones that people answered the most. So let's go ahead and get into this video, and hopefully you guys enjoy. And if you guys don't follow me on Twitter or Instagram, feel free to do so. It's always linked in the description. It is at heskicks. But first we'll break it down by sneaker model, then we'll get into the individual sneakers. So first and foremost, by sneaker model, Kobe Bryant sneakers were listed 14 times, so 14 meant, and somebody is mowing the lawn. It like never fails as soon as I have a quiet house that somebody's actually mowing outside. But anyway, Kobe Bryant sneakers were mentioned 14 times by different models, the 5s and the 6s mostly. And then you also had a handful of different Nike Air Max models that I'll get into, but they were mentioned about 13 times. The Nike Mag from Back to the Future is in a class of its own, and it was mentioned 20 times individually, and we'll revisit that in the top 10. And then also Travis Scott sneakers were mentioned 23 times. So that is like the Air Jordans and the Dunks mostly for the Travis Scotts. Then you have Nike Yeezys, specifically were mentioned 25 times. You're talking about the Red Octobers, you're talking about the Platinums and the Blinks and whatnot from the Yeezy 1s and the 2s. Then you get into the big three, and this is probably not surprising in 2023, but we have the Air Jordan 4 that was mentioned 41 different times. There's a couple of them that are definitely higher on the list. So you had a huge list of Air Jordan 4s, and then we'll break down some of the top answers in just a second. And then coming in at the number 2 spot, you have the mention of Nike SB Dunks, specifically SBs. Obviously, those are the ones that are the most highly sought after. There was a bunch of different mentions, the Skater Dyes, the Uncles for the older folks, the What the Dunks, Travis Scott's, Tiffany's. Strangelove was mentioned quite a few times as well, Skeletors, Paris a couple times, and then Jackie Robinson's, Heineken's, Green Lobsters and Purple Lobsters, Grateful Dead. You had the Civilist, Strawberry Coughs, and so on, and there's a couple of them that are elite tier that I didn't mention yet. But basically, tons and tons and tons of mentions of Nike Dunks, 49 times to be exact. And the number 1 shoe that was mentioned the most out of everything on the list, and we're talking about 20 different colorways of this specific model that was mentioned, and that is obviously the Air Jordan 1. It was mentioned 88 times, pretty crazy amount of times to be honest, like 88 times in 20 different models. We have the Dior's, the Fragments, the Igloos, LA to Chicago, Zion Lows, you have like the Mochas and UNC Off-Whites and Rusts and SBBs, Shattered Backboards, and Enter the Spider-Verse, which is actually one that I want that I never got. But as a long-term collector, it's pretty crazy to see the shift. Like 10 years ago, a lot of these shoes never even existed. 5 years ago, a lot of these shoes never existed. So it's really wild that they're number 1 spot for so many people. Meanwhile, there's a ton of different shoes that are just like desired and then forgotten, and I think that that is kind of interesting to see the evolution of that. But let's dig a little bit deeper and get into the sneakers themselves and the overall mentions specifically. We'll start off at, I guess, the number 11 spot, and that's the Air Yeezy 1. Those were mentioned at least 7 times in various different colorways. And then you have the Nike Craft Tom Sachs Mars Yards. Those were mentioned 8 times. Either the 1 or the 2, but still like very popular model. Then moving up the list, you have the Air Jordan 4 Off-White. I'm so very surprised about this one. This is a women's exclusive, obviously, as well, but it is one that is very highly desirable. Another shoe with 9 mentions, you have the Nike SB Dunk Low Chunky Dunkies. I love this one for sure. It was cool to be able to see people talking about this one because it's something that resonates with people. It's just such a cool colorway, and the theme was great and everything else. One that surprised me, though, that was mentioned over and over again, and I'm actually really happy about this one just because I'm an OG fan of the Nike Presto, and we're talking about the Off-White Nike Prestos. The original colorway specifically was mentioned 10 times by people, and this is just my aggregate. It might have been mentioned more times, but I really tried to dig in and research for you guys for this video. And if you guys appreciate it, like that, then please drop a like on the video and subscribe if you guys are new to my channel. But the Off-White Prestos, that's one that I wanted that I never got, and the prices are just outrageous right now. So of course I'm never gonna get them, but the original colorway was super fire, and you know, I wish I had them. And coming in at 13 mentions, you had the Air Jordan 4 Cause colorways. Now you have the gray and the black. Both were mentioned, and unfortunately I just kind of summed them up into one, and a couple of other spots on the countdown will have some sort of the similar treatment, because honestly it would have been like 2 or 4 for one colorway. It just adding them together, it made more sense since it's pretty much the same shoe and the same collaborator. Now coming in with 15 mentions is the Air Jordan 1 Travis Scott. Now this could be the low top version, the fragment version, or the high top version. Unfortunately, I just kind of meshed them all together. Also, when somebody said Air Jordan 1 fragment, I also added those ones into this compilation, even though the fragment collaboration, the original one, was not a Travis Scott. For the sake of argument, some people are probably just going to be mentioning the Travis Scott version, although the people that know about the original one, definitely a solid choice. Also mentioned 19 times, we have the Air Jordan 1 High Union collaboration. Now this is the black colorway and the blue colorway as well, kind of a hodgepodge of both of them, but honestly a very, very sought after pair of sneakers. And it is definitely one where it was just like obtainable to some people, maybe at $1,000 or so. And then it just creeped out of people's range where they're just not comfortable in paying the price, which is understandable because they're, you know, just too expensive. With 18 mentions, we have one of the most hyped up sneakers of all time. We have the Nike Air Yeezy 2 Red October colorway. Now this is the one, I'm pretty sure most of you guys remember, this is the one that was released on a Sunday afternoon, random shock drop, and I missed it and everybody missed it. There was supposed to be other pairs that released. Where are the other pairs, Nike? What happened to them? There was so many reps of this shoe, though. It's so easily to get stung. So it's like really tough one to actually buy on the market. And honestly, with authentication issues, I would never, ever want to buy this one just because if you're paying like so many racks for a pair of sneakers, who knows if it's going to be real or not, which pretty much could be said about any of these sneakers on this list. You just got to be careful out there. If the deal is too good to be true, chances are it most likely is. And then, as I already alluded to previously, with 20 mentions, you have the Nike Mag. And if you don't know about the Nike Mags, go watch Back to the Future 2. You see Marty McFly put them on feet and they auto lace and then he rides a hoverboard. It's what dreams were made of, man. It was such a great concept. And they actually ended up making it into a shoe 2 different times, one without self-lacing and then another time with self-lacing. And an appropriate number, 23 times, we have the Air Jordan 1 Off-White collaboration, mostly the Chicago colorway. There was a couple UNCs that were mentioned and the EU version as well, but I'd say about 20 of those mentions were the Chicago colorway specifically, and there's an obvious reason why that is on the #1 spot. It's just definitely one of those ones where people really, really like the original color blocking, but also with Virgil Abloh's twist. But anyway, that's a breakdown of all the top sneakers that were mentioned. Some of my favorite sneakers that people mentioned that I just wanted to go ahead and throw out and call them out because I really like them personally, even though they weren't like a majority answer. You have the Air Jordan 3 DTRT, the Do the Right Thing. Amazing shoe, wish they would retro those. There was a slew of different Dornbecker releases, the 4s, the 5s, and 6s mainly. There was the Manila Air Jordan 4s Philippine release. Obviously that one is super crazy as well. About 4 or 5 people showed love for the Air Jordan 5 Tokyo. There was about 7 mentions of New Balance as well, with the Salehe Bembury collaborations as well as some Jown, Joe Freshgoods specifically. The LV Air Force 1 collection was actually only mentioned 1 time, which I found interesting. LeBron 9 Champ Pack, definitely one that I remember and wish I could have gotten. The KD4 Nerf, honestly, it's just one that should have been brought back by now and it's not. The Foamposite 1 Galaxy colorway as well as the Paranormans, love both of those. But anyways, answering the question myself, a sneaker that I want but would never buy because of the price, it's gonna be the self-lacing Nike Mags. Honestly, it's just one of those things where it's such an iconic pair from the movie, and I love the concept and everything like that it represents. The other main consideration is like pretty much any of the other sneakers on this list, Nike or Jordan Brand or New Balance, at any point they could just be like, okay, let's go ahead and retro those, let's bring them back. And with the Nike Mags, I don't think it's something that they can do easily because of the technology involved into the shoe, and hopefully it will be evolved by the time they actually do this again in another release. Hopefully they'll do that, but it's just not something easily replicated versus a lot of the other pairs out here. They could just do a retro of a Cos pack, they could retro the Cos pack, the Union pack, and so on. But anyways, that's the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have future suggestions for videos like these, I mean, leave a comment. Hopefully, if you guys liked the other comments, drop a like on their comments so it actually like brings it more closer to my attention. And then I like doing different things like this, and I want to do more of this as the year progresses. So much appreciated for stopping in and liking the video if you liked it, and hopefully we'll see you back on the channel for some more content. All right, peace guys.